we've gone to Madison Avenue, and we've looked at how Madison Avenue approaches persuasion and appealing to different age groups and cohorts. And what they do, Madison Avenue would take your jury and divide it into 4 different cohorts. They divide it into demographic groups based upon the age. And so they'll have 4 different ages, and they do studies on these because they want to learn how they can sell a hybrid Honda to a 34-year-old single woman who has a proclivity for hot pink nail polish. And so they will so direct their studies and their market forces that they'll make a fair determination of how to do that. And it's rather stunning the way they get it done, but they get it done. The first thing they do is divide people into demographic groups. I'll throw up the 4 names that I'm going to use. There are the builders, the boomers, the busters, and the bridgers. I like those 4 names because they all start with B, so I can remember them and confuse them both at the same time in my head. The builders, 1927 to 1945. If you are a builder, see if any of this applies to you. This is what the marketers say about you on Madison Avenue. They say, first of all, you're over 66. That's got to be pretty right. Second of all, they say that you're the silent or the private generation. You grew up at a time where men, especially, don't talk about their feelings. They're relatively silent, relatively private. Some things are for public display, others are not. Women are very guarded about what's proper in public and what's proper privately. This is that generation. They grew up that way. This is also a generation where words are very important. A bunch of us in here are baby boomers. This is where I land. The baby boomers, we're the crowd that was born between 1946 and 1960. And that tells us certain things about us, including the fact that we're somewhere in that age group above 50 but lower than 66. So we're in that age group. We're in the prime earning years of our lives, supposedly. As Riley and I and Watkins were joking before, we're young enough to where we've still got pretty much our health, but we're old enough to appreciate it and treat it a little bit better than we used to. Watkins said he was at a high school reunion recently. All of his buddies that used to talk about football and hurls were talking about their LDL levels and who's been scoped and who hasn't. That's the age where we are. Now, for this generational cohort, it's all about me. This is the first generational cohort that Madison Avenue made a targeted effort to capture. This is a generation, unlike the parents, who, by the way, this generation went through Vietnam to some degree or another or was influenced by it. So they question institutions, they question morals, they question authority. If you've got a cop on the other side of your case, put these jurors on, the odds are they'll think the cop's lying sooner than their parents or children would. The next generation of the busters, 1961 to 1983. I don't have a picture of them up here. I have an iPod instead, because this is the generation the iPod is designed for. You're age 28 to 50, something in that range. You're called the millennial generation because you were coming of age at the end of the millennium. In addition to the millennial generation, you grew up as what are called latchkey kids. That doesn't mean all of you. When most of these kids came home by themselves and let themselves in, they did not sit down and do their homework. Turns out, as bizarre as it sounds, they watched TV until their eyeballs dried. And it affected the way their brain works. They grew up watching more advertisements than any other generation in the history of this country before them. They don't believe the hype. They don't believe everything you read, don't believe everything you see. It's a cynical generation of latchkey kids. They like things plain and simple. If there's anything more complicated, then there's something going on. The Bridgers, the youngest generation, 1984 to 2002. You've got Bridgers, and that's the classic Bridger pose, but I'm sure they don't all look like that. Let me tell you what he'd tell you if he was talking to you. He'd say that there are 75 million of me, and we're growing, and you'll see more of us on your jury. And you know those old guys 3 generations back? They taught you how to try your cases, and it worked for them, but it won't work for me. So you better learn something new. Bob Dylan's more correct here than ever before. The times they are a-changing. I'm called a screenager. A screenager instead of a teenager when they were teenagers, because as teenagers, this generation grew up with screens in their hands. That's why they're called screenagers. They're very visual as a result. They like to see. They like things that are visual. Did you know this group watches 35 movies for every book they read? Think about that for a moment. They watch 35 movies for every book they read. Now, in our house, we have strict rules. We're big on reading. I mean, we hold our kids to 32 movies. Because I want my kids to get ahead. But I'm telling you, it is an amazing generation that we're trying to try these cases to at this point in time.